Are you ready to take your engravings to the next level? Color filling with paint is a great start, but sometimes you might want a little extra splash of color. In this video, I'm going to show you a very simple technique to add eye-catching color details to your engravings. Wood-covered notebooks are a very popular product of mine. Here, I'm creating a simple beach scene in just a few easy steps. You want to start by sealing your wood grains. This is the most important step. I'm using 1/8 inch Baltic birch and will add 1 coat of shellac, then let it completely dry, overnight if possible. Now do a nice deep engraving. I will often do 2 passes. Every laser is different, so play with this a little. Wipe as much of the burn off with denatured alcohol, then let it dry completely, especially inside the engraving. This usually doesn't take that long. I like to create sharp, crisp edges, so I'll do a quick sanding on both sides using 220 grit paper. It's just as easy to hand sand if you don't have a sander. Clean the dust off with an air compressor, or you can use just a straw and blow the dust out. Reseal the wood, especially inside the engraving, to prevent the paint from bleeding into the surrounding grains. Now the fun begins. We'll start by color filling the engraving with an inexpensive acrylic paint. I purposely choose this paint because it has a higher water content and less pigment, so it's less likely to leave a stain on your wood in case you didn't seal it well. Have some pieces of wet paper towel folded and ready to use. Go in small sections starting at the top. A small flat-headed brush works really well for this. Now with a light touch, you're going to wipe the section clean. You'll have to keep finding clean sections of your paper towel by turning it over and refolding. You don't want the paint to dry, or it's going to be much more difficult to remove. Saturate your engraving by working the paint in all directions, back and forth, up and down, and in circles, and push directly into the engraving, especially against the sides. In thicker engraved areas, it's easy to accidentally remove the paint. When you're wiping clean, barely press on the wood surface. Once it's mostly clean, start wiping towards the engraving. You may have to touch up these wide areas, or just repeat the entire process. I generally do 2 coats. It's important that you let this completely dry. The paint inside the engraving will stay wet for quite a while. Normally, I do a light sanding to clean the edges, then reseal the wood with shellac. But this actually looks pretty good to me, so I can skip that step. Here, we're going to paint the details. Add as many or as few colors as you want. Any amount of color will catch a potential customer's eye. This is really easy to do, and it's as simple as a paint by number. It's best to use a small pointed paintbrush. If you get a touch of paint inside the engraving, just use a small brush or even the tip of a toothpick to paint over it. Another quick tip is to start in the top corner of your dominant hand. I started at the top right. This is going to help prevent any smudging. Honestly, just a touch of red looks great, but I want to create a real sense of relaxation, so I'm going to do the blue water and the white chairs as well. I like the textured look, so I use the straight, thick acrylic paint. But you might want a smoother look, so just mix a little water in with your acrylic paint. Lastly, we need to seal the paint. Notebooks get heavy use, so I like to use a rugged clear varnish called Halcyon by Total Boat. You can find a link in the description below. And that's it. If you found this video helpful, then drop a comment or a question below. And don't forget to subscribe to see more helpful tips like this. We'll see you next time.